Alright, so good evening, good people. It's time for another exciting episode of the Men's Lounge here in the studios, coming live to you from Asylum down the eTVGhana studios. Thank you so much for being part of our evening. I always say I appreciate the fact that you sit when it's 9 o'clock to wait to listen to all the good things we have for you. Last week we spoke about whether spouse or a roommate, the petty marriage mistakes that men make, and I think we learned a lot. I mean, phones, issues of knowing your wife or your partner's passwords and all people's views and everything. It was quite interesting. Now, this week we have very, very important stuff to discuss. The very first, we'll be talking breast cancer. I'm sure you'd be wondering, okay, men, now men also don't have breast cancer. So yeah, it's something that's very important to us, especially when we know very well that men okay, let me not go there. But as a fact is, we start breastfeeding, we stop, continue. I'm sure you know what I mean. Yeah, and so it makes breast cancer something that we also take very key, importance to, so that we have to discuss and also see how we can support our partners. And that won't be the only thing we'll be doing. There will be a second part of the show where we'll also be discussing. I'll tell you what we'll be discussing. I would not like to let you take too much of the soup whilst we try to cook the meal. And so to start with, I want to say a very big thank you to Kasapreko Alumo Bitters for being part of the program, also to Promasido Yamvita for supporting us, and also to all of you who always watch. Please feel free and join us on all our social media platforms at eTVGhana. So whether it's Twitter, whether it's Facebook, whichever it is, at eTVGhana. I'm going to go on my very first, but when I'm back, we'll go straight and then we'll start the show. Please stay with us. All right, so welcome back. If you're just joining us, we are in the lounge, obviously the men's lounge. Whenever it's 9 p.m. on every Thursday, you know definitely I'm going to be coming your way with a program called the men's lounge. And I'm going to have lots and lots of beautiful people in the studio to have a lot of discussions with on very, very important topics, like I said. Before I proceed, let me tell you this. So the GMABC group is in the Entrepreneurship Month. To discover a business, you need to unravel the idea. To start and sustain a business, you need funds to carry the dream through. Stay enlightened in the month of October on all GMABC platforms as we bring thought-provoking discussions and interviews on business ideas, generation and development, financing opportunities, managing and sustaining your startup, and many more discussions on entrepreneurship. For sponsorship and partnership, call us on 02022222095 or 0242 884571. GMABC Entrepreneurship Month, create and sustain your own ideas. All right, so I'm going to go straight in the studio with me in the lounge. I have a very known face. I mean, he's very knowledgeable and we always love to learn from him. And so he's in the name of Dr. Dennis Botte. He's a medical director, Health Net. Doc.
Hi.
Akwaba.
Yeah.
After COVID, we are here. do we even say after COVID? Because I think it's still lingering around. It's in the corner
lingering.
somewhere.
It's lurking in the corner.
I've been reading quite a lot in other countries that there seems to be a second wave, and it's huge.
It's still on the rampage.
What's the difference? What is it? What's so different with us? Because unless I would say that we have decided to just ignore. I don't know, but
maybe we have taken quite some of the precautions a bit more seriously.
More serious.
I mean, wearing of mask is more rife here than maybe some other parts of the world. I wouldn't want to say so, but usually we say that our weather too has sometimes helps us, even though it's not the key thing. Some of these things happen in the cases of some of the SARS and those things we had to. Africa didn't crumble under SARS like the Western countries of the colder regions. But to a large extent, I think that maybe we took it more seriously. We took the fear, the panic alone made us more serious, even though in our own environment, we say that we are still not being that careful enough.
Well, I do agree with you. We are still not being that careful. But I think over time, the panic was good some way, somehow, for us, because it made a lot of people take the precautions rather serious than just throwing them into the... Anyway, so let me just remind you again about something that eTVGhana tomorrow on the 9th of October, 10th, 11 years. And so there's something that we want you to do. Now, we want you to send all the love, all the messages that you want. Send it by video, okay, to our WhatsApp number, and that is 020. I'm starting again, 020 2222054. send your message through a video, okay? Make a beautiful video. It should just be about 30 seconds. Don't do more than 30 seconds, okay? More than 30 seconds might be boring. I won't be able to look at it, and nobody will also be ready to look at it. So 30 seconds, beautiful video with a lovely message, and let us hear you. And you'll be surprised where you find the video being played. So back to the studio. Doc.
Yeah.
There's something very important that I want us to discuss, and that has to do with breast cancer. And I'm not sure if it's a myth but do men get breast cancer?
Well,
I'm sure somebody will be wondering, okay, why are they discussing breast cancer? Really, what does it got to do with it?
It's not a myth. It's a truth. It's a truth of the matter. Men do get breast cancer.
Really?
If I would go into statistics, for every 150 cases of breast cancer you have, one is a man.
Wow. Okay, 150. So for one out of
every 150 cases of breast cancer, minimal. Irrespective of who is involved, whether be it male or female, at least one is a man.
I see.
But when it comes to maybe women, we're looking at a situation of almost 1 in 10 or 1 in 8, which is quite about 12% of women are likely to have breast cancer. But when it comes to breast cancer in general, you're looking at a number of 150 women breast cancer cases, then you're looking at one of them likely being a man. Point is that men also have breasts. And your breast, apart from the fact that you don't breastfeed a child, it has everything that a woman's breast has, just that it's been shrunk, or it's vestigial. It's very, very small.
Oh, really?
Yes. So you have nipple, you have the same sensation a woman has in her breast, you are also likely to have same.
Interesting.
And the men know what I'm talking about.
The men know, eh?
They know it.
I should be asking the men whether they know. Well, so Doc says you are likely to get the same sensation that the women also get from their breasts, because we have the same thing, except that our breasts are small. Yeah. Right, Doc, I'm right.
That's right.
Yeah, I should be sitting here next time as a doctor. I'll be surprised. And so, Doc, let me find out this. Then we are saying yes, men do get, irrespective of the fact that it's more like a very small, number out of 1 out of 150. So are there any for men? Well, yeah. Now that it is yes, we do have. So are there any risk factors? Well,
the risk factors for breast cancer in general is one, female gender.
Okay.
The female gender is the number 1 risk factor. And again, if we talk about risk factors, and they say that female gender is, being a female is a high risk factor. It just means that men have a lower risk.
A lower risk, okay.
It's more for the female. So men we do have a lower risk, but it is there that men do get. As I said, statistically, 1 out of every 150 cases likely to be a man. And I've seen a number of men who have had their breast just removed, just like women have their breasts removed.
But that one, you won't see it. The thing is already flat, and you are going to remove what? You won't see it.
But that's where it becomes more tricky, because you are likely to be very complacent and lose sight of. You might think that because I'm a man, this is not possible.
Yeah.
And you may not pay attention to your breast. But it's time that we all started looking.
That's interesting. And so I'm sure when I get there, I'll be asking you, because I've been seeing some videos of people trying to check something. So what, the men should also start checking.
The men should also check.
That would be very interesting.
Self-examination.
Well, that would be interesting. I think it's something that we should take very serious. Now that we know that it's a yes for men, except that the numbers are quite, are not as much as it happens in the women.
Yeah, for the women, it's really high. It's really high. I mean, breast cancer is the commonest cancer in women. The commonest cancer in women, and it's the most researched cancer you can ever have among all the cancers. And in the year 2018, about 2.09 million breast cancer cases were gotten worldwide. 2.09 million.
But that's a lot.
Yes, so when you hear 2.1 million, you think it's something small. But I always want to look at it this way, that if you are men, we have sports fans, and we watch these soccer matches on the EPL, and then Santiago Bernabeu, the stadium is packed, 80,000 capacity, and you see the number of people. Yeah. Now look at 80,000 and how many times it goes into 2 million.
That's scary.
So you see the number of stadia of people diagnosed with, and that will make it look more scary to you than to think of 2.1 million, it's nothing, 2.09. But when you look at the number of stadia, because if you take 50,000, then it means that you are looking at about 400 stadia or so. I mean, you're looking
at now I can't even imagine it now.
Yeah, 50 stadia of people diagnosed with breast cancer, and the numbers keep rising. The number of people being picked with breast cancer is rising by the years.
Doc, what is the cause? Is it our current lifestyle, the food we eat, the less exercising and all that? Could it be a contributing factor?
The causes, we can actually look at it in terms of what we call like modifiable factors, things you can do something about, like these things you are mentioning, and also factors you cannot modify. I'll come to, maybe you speak about the lifestyle. The food you are eating, yes, they contribute to sickness. You actually what you eat. And what you eat actually helps you also to fight disease conditions. So if you eat wrong, you are likely to succumb more easily to disease conditions. If you eat right, yes, your system is better positioned to fight conditions. But drinking, alcohol, smoking, obesity, and all these have been found to be contributing factors to people coming down with breast cancer. Now, these are things that you can do something about. You can do something about obesity. You can do something about exercising, being active. You can do something about drinking alcohol and smoking. You can do something about hormonal therapies that we are getting, especially when women grow to menopause and they are feeling the discomfort of menopause. They want to go for hormone replacement therapy. They want to feel like younger again. Some of these hormone replacement therapies have been found to contribute to the risk of coming down with the breast cancer. Whoa. So these are things you have control about. But there are things that you have absolutely no control about. The fact that you're a man or a woman, you don't have any control about that.
Okay.
Now, the fact that you are growing, you have no control over that. Now, statistics indicate that if you take the spectrum of people coming down with breast cancer, about 80% of them are above 50 years. So it means that aging is a factor. But that doesn't mean that because you are young, you cannot come down with breast cancer.
Okay.
In fact, a lot of us will have stories about young people in their 20s, some in their, as low as 18, who have had breast cancer and maybe have had to go through certain therapies. We've had cases of friends or relatives or loved ones who maybe in their 30s have come down with breast cancer. So having said that, 80% of cases of breast cancer are above 80 should not make us go to sleep for those of us who are younger. But also avert our minds to the fact that out of the 80, there's a certain 20% that are below the age of 50. So anybody between the age of 18 all the way to 50, you could fall in that 20% chance of getting breast cancer. Yes. So every one life is crucial. Every one life is important. So we're saying that don't be too happy too quickly hearing that, oh, it's usually 80% of the cases above 50%, above 50 years. Remember that 20% are also below 50 years, all the way down to 80.
You just might fall as part of that.
You might fall victim to that.
Doc, you mentioned that 1 out of every 8 statistically in Ghana, for example, are likely to have, the cancer. So then it comes across as a risk that is quite high. How do we reduce this risk?
The reducing of the risk is high, yes, it's very high. But reducing the risk has to do with doing something about the modifiable factors, which I'll come to, and then the non-modifiable factors to what can we do about it. And let me mention some of these non-modifiable factors. I've mentioned the aging, I've mentioned the fact that you're a female, the fact that you have breasts, bigger breasts, or you have more dense breasts, increases the chances of you forming cancer. And also, there are other things like genetics.
Okay.
Genetics, maybe you have inherited a certain gene from the family line or from your parents, your mother, your father, your auntie, your mother, your auntie, your grandmother, all the females.
Yeah.
But it could also come from, now talking like this, could also come from the man.
From the male, eh?
If men can get it.
Yeah.
You can inherit genes.
Okay.
There's this gene we call BRCA1. Or BRCA2. In med school, we call it BRCA1, BRCA2.
Okay.
That's breast cancer gene 1 and 2. They are inheritable. You can inherit them actually. And you see, you don't know you have inherited anything. You wouldn't know until the time comes for the gene to start showing expression. genes begin to express themselves at a certain time. So somebody has a certain disease condition, doesn't show when the person is a child, but then they say, oh, it's in the family,
at a
but
certain age.
it comes at a certain age. So we are saying that when you look at the genetic aspect, you may have inherited it. You can't do anything about what you have inherited. I keep saying that usually when it comes to women or guys, your father, a handsome guy like you see, and then your kids also look like their dad, handsome. We are very happy when you get external things that are beautiful on our mom. The women will be shaking themselves and say, this is what my mama gave me. You know, this is what my mama gave me. This is what my mama gave me. Now, when you are happy about the external things that are nice that your mama gave you,
you should be ready for the internal ones.
The internal ones who are there, them those ones you don't.
And
see
they don't show until a certain time.
So you would have to make the conscious effort to be looking out for them. Knowledge is power. So once you are getting to know, then you begin to look out for them. Again, family history is also rife. Family history. If any auntie of yours, your mother, your grandmother, if ever anybody in that family line has ever had breast cancer, chances are that anybody else down the line could pick it up. So you need to look into the family. Don't close your eyes to family history. You can't do anything about that. So as you are growing, even in your 18s and in your teenagers, be looking into the family and prepare for any eventuality that might happen there in future. What are the other risk factors that probably are modifiable? It is also realized that for women who have their first child after age 30, this is not to scare anybody. For women who have their first child, usually after age 30, the number of people who have breast cancer, in terms of those numbers who have had it, we take the statistics, realize that quite a good number of them had their first child after age 30. Also, women who have never breastfed are quite on the high. So there is no breastfeeding, or people people who are nulliparous. Nulliparous means that the woman never ever have had kids. Now, they are also quite high in the numbers of people who have breast cancer. So nulliparity is a risk factor. First child after the age of 30 or 35 or 40 is also a risk factor. Now, we also talk about what we call early menarche and late menopause. What I mean by early menarche is this. Back then, you hear that our mothers started having their menses sometimes 17 years before they started having menses. Now, the kids, by 9-10 years, they've started having their menses. Now, so what happens is that from the age of 9 till the age of, let's say, 50, when you get to menopause, let's say 10 to 50 years menopause, you'll be menstruating for 40 continuous years. And once you are going through the ovarian cycle or the female cycle, what it means is that your body is being subjected or being bombarded with hormones going up today, going down tomorrow, going up this, that kind of wave. That constant 40 years of this exposure of hormones is also found to contribute to the risk of developing breast cancer. So if you have somebody who has early menarche, start menses early, and yet menopause will even come at 55, then it means that a longer span of exposure to these hormones. So it also makes sense to think that if there's anything that could actually break the cycle a bit in terms of the number of years of exposure to these hormones, it would help. So what happens? If a woman has, let's say, 4 kids in between maybe the time of menses, maybe from the time of 20 years till maybe 45 years, has 4 kids, and she did breastfeeding for, let's say, 2 years. Let's assume 2 years breastfeeding. Now that means that out of these 40 years, you would have reduced the exposure to hormones by 8 years.
Okay.
Because each child you are breastfeeding for 2 years, so you reduce the risk by 8 years. Now, how does breastfeeding help? Now, we have established the fact that when you are going through your cycles all the time without any break, then this exposure to estrogen and all these female hormones increases your risk. When a woman is breastfeeding, what happens is that they usually will realize that when they're actively breastfeeding, they don't menstruate. Wow. For women who are actively breastfeeding, menses delays after childbirth, they will be breastfeeding and they will have no menstruation. That means that for that 6 months or that 1 year that you are actively breastfeeding, the estrogen levels are rather down, and a new hormone that works on you producing breast milk, which is called prolactin, comes to the fore. and that is what comes to work. So whilst it's working, it suppresses the dangerous hormones.
Wow.
So we say that breastfeeding, feeding on the breast, for that matter, helps in reducing.
So there's an interesting look at Dr. has on his face. You know, feeding on the breast, and then he started smiling. I begin to wonder, okay, so who is feeding on the?
Yes.
But obviously, I need to find out something before. I don't want you to answer that question. So it's already clear that keeping the breast active somehow is a way of, helping to.
That's right.
So what about screening? Screening for how do you get the breast screen, and how do men? For me, my most concern really has to do with how men can support their wives, to check and make sure that this whole menace of breast cancer will be totally out or very much reduced.
So let me come to the men helping their spouses. See, feel, taste.
See, feel, taste.
See, feel, and taste.
See, like see the breast.
Yes, because if it's a breast, you seeing or like feel and taste.
How do you taste?
Sometimes you take your mouth there, and maybe you just go there and you feel something, maybe taste something. It's like a liquid coming to your mouth.
Okay.
And you may want to find out whether it's okay or not. That's why I want to put it that way.
See, feel, taste.
So if you've been seeing all the time and you see that there are certain changes, and it's something you've been touching, and you realize that this time I'm feeling something different here, this can help you at least alert your spouse that I'm feeling something different. If you haven't, then go have it checked. So that's how I'm going to put it, that this is how the men can support. That is in the screening. And then also we'll come to men supporting them in the unfortunate event of a woman being diagnosed with breast cancer.
Yeah.
Still need the men to support in the treatment, and then the woman calling herself, I'm a survivor of breast cancer.
That's
so that is how screening. But in terms of screening itself for the women, we talk about them making the conscious effort that they would examine their breast themselves.
Okay.
By looking at your breast all the time, as frequently as possible in a mirror. Look in the mirror, see yourself. You can stand akimbo, hold your waist, and look at how it's, you know the shape. Once you are seeing something, it still creates a memory.
Yeah.
So if you come tomorrow and yesterday your nipples were like, I call it the guitar pins, they are straight like that. Yeah. And tomorrow you come and one is still straight and the other is bent down.
There's a problem somewhere.
There's a problem somewhere. Or today you come and then one is retracted in, then there's something has changed. And then so you have that memory, so be seeing changes. So you do what I call the visibility studies.
I'm beginning to feel like we need to start this whole topic on a 2-hour session. Look, prepare for that. I'll call you. Right. We have to do it again. But let me find out this. So HealthNet. I mean, being where you are from, what is HealthNet doing when it comes to? Is there something specific that HealthNet is doing when it comes to breast cancer? Yeah, HealthNet, we are passionate about breast cancer. Every year we advertise around, we speak to the public, we go to different places and do advocacy for women to get to know the status of their breast. Okay. And we offer free screening for the breast, free clinical examination. So if you walk into any of our branches, we have one in the airport near Adidas. And then you also have one on the Usulabadi Road opposite the Kingdom Books. The main stretch between Usu Police Station and La General. You see Kingdom Books opposite. If you walk in and in the month of October and you say that you want to do breast screening, the doctor would definitely do that for you. Today somebody walked in like that and then we did for her. Now that is one. Then the other thing about screening is the use of the mammogram. Mammogram is sort of an X-ray for the breast. Now, usually for women who are about 40 years, some say 35, some even say 50, we advise that if you can do at least twice, once every 2 years. Is that the mammogram we are seeing on the screen?
Yeah. So once every 2 years, you can have an X-ray that is able to detect what the fingers may not be able to detect. Okay. So the breast examination with the fingers can be able to detect something. But what the eyes and then the fingers cannot pick, the mammogram may pick it up. So for us at HealthNet, every year, for every October, we halve the cost of doing mammograms.
Okay.
So if the mammogram is
mammogram cost is 50% off.
50% off.
Nice one.
Now you come is 75. So
okay.
As many women as possible can just walk in to our airport branch. We have a mammogram machine there to do the breast mammogram. And before then, you'll be advised. You speak to a doctor, and then they will tell you whether you need to do it or do a physical examination, and that will help you.
All right, Doc. I'm very grateful for this thorough explanation, but I still think there is more to talk about, especially when it comes to breast. But two things. We haven't even started in Pony. Two things that I'm going to take home today has to do with how the men would help. Okay, so see, feel, taste. Doc, I'm correct?
Yeah.
I'll be a doctor soon. And also, the women, you need to stand akimbo. That's what you said.
Stand akimbo,
and then look at it.
You can hold your hand above your
that
head
way,
and also look at how it pack. And then look for signs. Are you seeing any swelling? Are you seeing any swelling? Are you seeing any puckering, dimpling of your? Are you seeing any what we call pod orange, like as if it's an orange pea with certain holes appearing on the skin?
All right.
Any skin changes at all?
You need to
and sometimes go into your armpit. Sometimes you may not feel anything in your breast, but you may feel a lump in your armpit. That lump may be a lymph node. That means that the breast cancer probably has started moving already into the lymph and will be distributing it to other parts of your body. So when you examine the breast thoroughly with your fingers put together, you go around, either lying down or standing, or maybe in the shower whilst water is dripping on you. It makes it smoother, and then you just go around. Make sure you touch everywhere. Come and look at the nipple, press the nipple and see if any liquid will come out.
Okay.
If you see anything untoward, quickly don't sit at home. Speak to your doctor.
All right, so on this note, I'm going to run to or for my second break. We'll be back shortly. Please stay with us. All right, so welcome back. If you're just joining us, we are still in the lounge. We started discussing breast cancer, but I did mention from the start that the topic for today really isn't breast cancer, but breast cancer being that October being a month of breast and cancer issues, we needed to make sure that with this we are likely to bring the discussion back next week so that we can delve even deeper and explain a few more other things that will help all of us, the men, the women, especially now that it's been said that men also can get cancer, irrespective of the numbers. 1 out of 150, but still it is a yes, and so all of us need to be careful. So continuing now, we are going to go into the main discussion, which has to be with childlessness in marriage, and what's the man's perspective. And with me to do that discussion, I have one of your favorite persons here. No, it's not Lawrence, and it's not Ebujebi or anybody. It is Dr. Isaac Newman Arthur. Dr. Isaac Newman Arthur. So he happens to be a medical doctor and clinical psychologist. I enjoy talking to this man. I learned so much, and he makes me feel like I can be a doctor easily, But when I start seeing the X and the Y and the chemical, and I'm like, Charlie, it's a long story, man. Doc Akwaba, good to see you. I'm sure everybody's wondering where the other doctor went. Today, it's we the doctors. We're having a doctor's discussion, you know what I mean? And so, Doc, childlessness. I know it's one of the things that's more like a serious headache in many relationships, not just marriage, but many relationships, beyond just marriage. But it makes me wonder, okay, so we decide to marry, and all of a sudden, because there's no child, the marriage begins to, how important is a child or children in marriages?
Yeah, so depending on where you are in the world, the importance will be different. And so there are about 3 things I would mention. One, the representation of children for various communities and individuals. Children represent something. They represent an inheritance. They represent an investment. They represent a certain honor. They also represent, if you are also into religion and religious issues, and probably you're a Christian or Muslim, it represents a blessing.
Okay.
So children represent something. So if, for example, someone is not having a child, now it's more like, okay, that means is God blessing me? Am I blessed? Because when people say your marriage is blessed, they are looking at some things. And on top of the list is children. Then I said the representation also, they represent an investment. Because people feel that, okay, if you have a child, in future they will provide a certain support.
Okay.
So people are looking at that investment aspect of life. And so it becomes an issue. Another representation I mentioned has to do with, it represents a certain honor and glory of a family. And they carry a name for a certain generation. So it's like you have a child, and you're going to name the child after me, and that child continues your name.
And your name stays.
And your name stays.
Yeah.
And they also represent a certain legacy.
Okay.
Because children may continue your own legacy, you know, when you're dead and gone. So that aspect of children make them very, very special. The second is that depending on who the child is and where the child is, in terms of the kind of family the child is from, then it becomes, that child may be a symbol of authority even for the family. For example, in a royal home, for example, a child represents an authority. Yeah. Because they are going to rule.
Yeah.
You know,
especially
and in
when it's a
certain
male
families,
child,
especially when it's a male child. So in certain families where in our tradition, maybe you become the Ebusia penny or something. So children represent a certain kind of, that is the value of a child in a family, can be. Then also another thing has to do with the fact that a child represents a certain idea and a concept and a certain kind of destiny that can bring a certain solution to this world.
Okay.
So anytime people are looking for solutions to this world, they turn to human beings who were once kids. So children represent solutions for future generations. And so it's not just simple to say that, okay, we are married, no kids. And so in the mind of people, all these things are going on. And depending on even the sex of the child, they attach a certain kind of value. So there are certain families, they need women to continue something. There are certain families, they need a male.
Yeah.
So even in a home, you may have children, but you'll still not be happy because you need a certain sex or gender to be able to continue something. So all those things are going on in the mind of people. And parents will want you to name a child after them so that it can continue
a certain legacy.
A certain,
But Doc, with all that you have said, are you then saying that, fine, let's try to put percentages here. At what percentage would you put the importance of children in marriage?
It depends. It depends on where, who, and what. So and the percentages may vary. But it sits on top of probably everything for a marriage. Anybody who gets married has children in mind. If they are single, they may have children. But even when they are single, some people say, "Me, I don't want to marry. I just want to have a child, you know, and I'll be fine." You know. Okay. So I would say that if you look at the importance people attach to things in marriage, children will sit on top.
So then would we say that the absence of children, it is okay to know, especially when we realize that that is what is causing a lot of challenges in marriages? Should we say yes, it is an absolute reason why there could be a lot of challenges in marriages?
Yes, it was because people who marry have some kind of expectations.
And but what if somebody marry? I mean, there's a couple that says, well, the main reason for our marriage is not for children.
Well, so in that, you know, it is when...
Or that's part of the variations.
So some people may not place any premium on having kids. Okay. It's okay, it comes fine if it doesn't. But the majority of the populace may place a certain kind of premium on children.
On children, okay.
So when it's not happening in a certain marriage, all the reasons I've given is what is running through their mind. So it's not easy to say, oh, get over it. You may have to be able to deal with all those things in their mind so that they will be able to make progress.
But no, why is this such a big deal? I mean, they don't have children, so what? Is it society? What is it? Is it culture? I don't get it.
It's a big deal because of all the things I've said, and especially in an African culture. In an African culture, children are virtually everything because of all the things I've said. You know, outside the country, they may place some kind of, you know, importance to other things. You know, maybe their career or, you know, their business or something. They may, you know, some people don't even care about marriage and all those things. But it becomes important, especially when you're growing older.
Okay. Because
at some point you need some people around you. You need some form of, you know, emotional support, some form of social interaction and all that. And children, in a way, as they grow older, and even whilst they're growing, they become, you know, resourceful in terms of providing that kind of social environment. Yeah. So people are even thinking about their old age and people around them and what it will look like.
Okay.
Because people use kids, you know, and the support of kids and the presence of kids to cope with later life issues. You know, so it's not, because to be able to live alone for life. It's not that simple, because
it can only be for a certain number of years.
Yes, you need some people around you, because if you have a child, what it means is that they are obligated to be around you, even if they don't like it, and they are likely to be around you. Regardless, they are likely to be around you. But if you don't have anybody around you, anybody else, even if it's a friend or something, at some point they won't be around you. Like, they are not mandated to be around you. You know, they can move away anytime they want. But kids virtually are stuck with you forever, unless something happens, you know, to that relationship along the line. And it's really the later stages of your life, when there's something we call emptiness stage, even when all the kids have left. But when there are no kids, you live in a certain kind of isolation, you know, for a longer time. And that can be very, very, you know, damaging to people as they grow older. Even parents who have kids around and later they have to marry and leave, that emptiness stage, you know, that's a lot of, you know, psychological, you know, damage to them.
The reason,
and some emotional and social damage to them.
The reason they quickly start asking you for grandchildren.
So that now you have to replace.
Now you have to go and replace what you took away.
With grandchildren. You know, so it is not just the couples who are concerned, but even the parents of the couples who are concerned about grandchildren.
To fill that empty space.
So it's a whole.
That's very interesting. But you see, obviously, with some statistics or research, we would know that childlessness in a marriage is either the fault of a man or a woman. Otherwise, of the two, probably something that we all may not know. We only leave the rest to God. But it's either the fault of the woman in most cases, right? So, as a man, especially when you know that it's you are the cause of it, how should you handle that issue of childlessness in your marriage? Okay,
so I'll make a statement, kind of to be able to make it clear about the statement you made about most women.
So I didn't say most women, no. I said most likely it's either a woman or a man's fault. The other reason is what we don't know. We leave that to God.
Yes, I think that's so. So it's been shown that close to about 15% of all marriages, there will be some infertility problems. So if you take 100 people, about 15 marriages have challenges with women, with kids, right? And also the research will say that, the statistics will say that 1/3 of the issues with infertility is with the women, 1/3 of the problem is with the men. Then the other one,
we don't know,
Or no. So virtually, you know, in our society, when there's no child, even in
everybody thinks the woman.
Everybody thinks the woman. But it's we shared pepper. You see, God is wise, kakra.
No, he's very wise.
No, I'm using kakra, you know, in a certain context. You know, God in His wisdom, you know, puts everybody on a
same level.
Even now, you know, people think that, you know, there are more women than men, so men would marry more. If you look at the statistics, in the marital ages, you know, the men are almost the same as the women, even slightly more than the women.
Okay.
Because men die quickly and men die easily, women don't. Right? So in the marital years, you realize that even there are slightly more men than women. So there's a balance in the marital years.
Okay.
It is only after maybe 50 or 65 then there is a swap, because the women live longer than men. Men die.
Lots of them would have died.
Yes, would have died. And it's the women who take care of the grandchildren. So God in His wisdom has done it that way, so that there will be more women in the later years, so that they can take care of the next generation. Right? So when it comes to infertility issues, the men, 1/3 of the issue come from the men. And because of the issues around fertility and men, and that everything around men is reduced to things in between your thighs, it makes it easier for men to accept, you know, infertility issues and be confident enough to go to the hospital to find out if they are the cause of the problem.
Okay.
Because, you know, in this world, if someone says you are a man, they are referring to something in between your thighs.
Yeah.
And so that representation, that is damned on men, make men pay attention to what is in between their thighs
more.
And their functioning and their reproductive health. Though women are blamed more, which is wrong, and it's not. It shouldn't be the case, because it's same 1/3. You know, but for a man to go to the hospital to say, 1, I have premature ejaculation. 2, I have, I'm impotent. 3, I'm infertile. It's a big thing for a man, because that reduces his manhood. You know, it just reduces you.
And the ego and our ego.
I mean, you can't imagine.
Let me want to talk about it.
Because I had an incident where, I think there was some infertility between couples, and the woman had done all kinds of tests, but the woman had not done any tests.
Not even one.
Not even one. Then he had to do the test, and the problem was for him. And the way the woman looked at the man and checked,
so it was
you.
You.
It was
and
you.
You were keeping it.
It's you. So that kind of, I'll use the word stigma, carefully.
Yeah.
That kind of representation that is about men in societies makes the treatment of infertility issues amongst couples very, very difficult. Because a lot of men lose their confidence, lose their self-importance and identity. They feel worthless. They feel everything that is outside men when that diagnosis is put on them. And so it's not easy for men. So if you talk to any medical professional, they will tell you that most of the time when there's infertility, the women will come do every kind of test. And it is when they've done that, sometimes even 4 or 5 years, and there's no child coming, and they've done all the tests with the women, then the men show up. And usually realize that the man is the fault of the man. And it may be easier to even treat infertility in men than even the women, because of all the complications and things around women and their reproductive organs here. Most of the time for men, maybe because probably your sperms are not being produced enough, or if it's produced, it's not quality, or maybe the quantity is small, and some even no production at all. And even where it passes and it has to come, during ejaculation and all that, some even it goes back into the bladder, and there's some blockage somewhere.
When you are to be called a man, it's a complete scam. I always say it's a complete scam. Anyway, so I'm going to go on the very last break. Unfortunately, that's all time would give us. So I'm going on the last break. When I'm back, the phone lines would also be open, and I'll announce the phone line when I'm back. But remember to also keep your messages coming. We'll read them when we come back. Please stay with us. All right, so welcome back. If you're just joining, we are in the very last segment of the men's lounge. We are still discussing childlessness. The word is funny, childlessness. Childlessness in marriages and what the effects are, especially when it comes to men. And when you find out that you, the man, you are the cause. Guys, let's not joke with this. I think as much as the women want to take it serious, we should double up and even be more serious because it's beginning to look like we carry the most issues than the women, and our ego and how we feel, society and everything, especially being called a man, makes us don't want to go to the hospitals to check. So the phone lines are open now, and the number is 0555-657278. I repeat, 0555-657278. Please keep your calls coming, and also your messages should come on 0202222054. I'll take this from Ekua. Ekua from Adenta says, childlessness in marriage is very serious. I'm a young girl, but when married women come to church and they are prayed for, all because of childlessness, it really touches me a lot. Indeed, this is, it will touch you, especially when you are a young girl, as you're saying, and you definitely would grow to be a woman. Doc, before we left, I was asking, when a man, you know that you are the cause, how do you handle it? So what about the reverse? How should a man in marriage, how should a man handle the situation when you know that the cause is the woman?
You need to be able to define why you're married and place that definition above everything. Because there are people who have kids and they are really struggling. They are really going through stuff. Some people wish they didn't even have kids. So now you realize that kids are so important in marriage, but they are not the ultimate in marriage. And it's not everybody who would have kids. They are very few. And some people even will now have to look into themselves and find out whether they are the cause of the problem.
Doc, let me hold you on this. We'll continue. Yes. There's a caller on the line. Hello, caller. Your name and where you are calling from?
I'm Hamon, calling from Tewa.
Hi, Hamon. Please, let's hear you.
Yes, please, I want to ask a quick question. Just recently, I noticed something about myself. Each time I release, my semen seems to some kind of one funny way. Sounds like freezing some kind of way, and I'm really not getting it. And I don't really know what's actually wrong. So I want to ask Doc that is it normal?
Come on, that kind of way, your explanation will help us a little bit, Doc. I'm sure that seemingly kind of way.
Yeah.
What exactly are you trying to say?
Probably it's light or it's inadequate or something. I think that to be able to, yes, okay.
No, it's not light. When it comes out, it seems like very thick, but it separates like breaks one thing.
Okay, Hammond, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
You know, to be able to find out whether you're producing enough semen or not, you just have to do a semen analysis. You just go to the lab, you know, you get them the semen. They will analyze it. Usually, there's a value, you know, you know, they have, you know, the number that is adequate or inadequate and is capable of fertilizing, you know, an egg and the chances and all that. You know, so there are all kinds of figures around it. You know, so if you find out whether it's small or not, is it there or not, is it enough or not, you know, there are all kinds of things we measure, even the shape, you know, of the head, the tail, how it is moving, and all that, the number.
Yeah.
You know, there are all kinds of around it to see.
There seems to be another caller already. Hello, caller, your name and where you're calling from?
Yeah, my name is Lee.
Can you please speak up a little bit, please?
Yeah, my name is Lee, calling from Islam.
Hi, Lee. Let's hear you.
Yeah, okay. I have when I'm having a case, I released earlier.
Okay.
Yeah, so I just want to know if doctor help me.
All right. So you want to know whether there's an issue or whether you need to check or something, right? All right. Thank you, Nee. Doc.
I think today we are not talking about. I think you should talk about premature ejaculation.
Exactly.
No, today we are not talking about that. You know, but premature ejaculation has its own issues. Some of them are psychological. Some of them because you have some illness or not. And I've also realized that from my practice, men who have had some issues with pornography and masturbation, you know, pornography and masturbation, it primes you to a certain heightened state quickly. And your body becomes used to it, like conditioned.
Doc, I think we'll treat this separately another time because there's a lot more juice in the one that we have on the table. So we're talking about revisiting your reason for marriage. But again, I wanted to ask you this. So, what if that reason for the marriage was for procreation, and it's not coming? Then
your reason for marriage is shallow. No marriage can survive under that reason. Yes, it can. Your marriage can't. You can't have your principal reason for marrying to be, and that is the mistake people make. Marriage goes beyond having kids.
Yeah. And
if you're marrying for kids, you know, your wife or yourself, you are not a baby production machine, and usually it's the men. Some women have, but usually it's the men, and so they put undue pressure on the women. So the reason for marriage goes beyond kids.
Beyond kids.
And so have that mindset that marriage goes beyond that. It's two people who are trying to make sense out of life and fulfill a certain assignment, which is also divine. You know, so that goes beyond everything else. Because when the reason for marriage becomes kids, then if you have problematic kids, you would divorce. If you are not having kids, you're going to divorce. And in marriage, all kinds of things happen.
Yeah.
So if you have that as a reason for marriage, though it is important, but that reason won't survive any marriage, because issues around kids, if it becomes major in the marriage, no couple can survive.
Can survive it.
It's between the two of you.
Would we say with that? Would we say with that kids are ultimately important, that no marriage can survive without kids?
No. So what I'm saying is that kids are important, but if they become the ultimate reason for marriage, then the marriage cannot survive. Because issues around kids, if you have kids, you have issues. So if you don't have kids, you have issues. You know, so if kids become the reason for the marriage, then there is nothing between the two of you that you can enjoy. And you fell in love with the woman and not the kids. The kids are products of that kind of thing. Yeah, you fell in love with someone and not the kids. Yes.
Doc, I think the time is really running up, but I will not let you go. There's one more I want to know from. So I want to know, can you kindly share with us, okay, some tips for couples dealing with childlessness?
One, they should redefine their goals for marriage.
For marriage.
It should be the fact that the two of you love each other and you are fulfilling a certain assignment, which is divine. You have probably a certain divine assignment, and that assignment makes a certain impact in this world that can even transcend you, even your generation. If that becomes a reason, then you have a higher reason to exist together. If that reason is not there, then any conflict will break the two of you. The second is that seek help early. So if you realize that 1 year, we time infertility after 1 year. If after 1 year of consistent, regular, satisfying, sex, after 1 year you're still not having child, seek help early. Because if you seek help early, then we can solve it fast. And the couples who are delaying after you marry, you are delaying a year, 2, 3 before you give birth because of a certain career goal or something. I tell couples that if kids are important, then start having them early, so that if you are not able to have them early, we can solve it. Because the women especially do not have time when it comes to having babies.
Yeah.
After age 35, all kinds of reasons come up. So that is what I would advise, that they start early. Then also, if the two of them are having issues, they should speak to a clinical psychologist. And I think they will make sense out of whatever the situation is, and they will counsel them appropriately, depending on the issues.
All right, Doc, thank you very much for
Thank you
passing through the lounge today. I'm sure I'd like to have you again so we can continue this particular discussion. Thank you also, viewers, for being part of this. We are grateful to have you be with us through this show. Thank you to Kasapreko Alomobites for keeping the something coming so that we can still be here. And also thank you to Promasido. Let me again remind you that tomorrow, 9th of October, eTV is 11 years. This is all you have to do. Send your videos, 30-second video, to 02022222054. Beautiful messages, and you'll be surprised where you find those messages going. What can we say? Thank you for being part of this evening. We'll come your way another week with another exciting episode of The Men's Lounge. Please be safe.